Okay, again from Hollywood, California. This is the Farrell Hair Loss Show. My name's Richard Farrell, and a self-proclaimed hair loss expert, I guess, an advocate for hair loss sufferers on this planet. And to my left is Michael Garcia, a hair loss sufferer himself, who can speak well for the said group. Michael, good to see you.
Thank you, Richard. Good to be back again.
Yeah, this is fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always good to lend a voice.
And feedback is just piling up. I think on our next show we're going to have to start sharing some of this stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Bring some guests on.
Soon. Well, anyway, our purpose on the show is to wade through all the information that hair loss sufferers have to wade through, mainly on the internet and in advertising and radio advertising, and kind of help people figure out what's the real answer for the hair loss situation.
There is so much information out there that, you know, to discuss it rationally rather than emotionally and give people, you know, the right choices, it's valuable.
And I think a lot of people make their choices during these emotional moments. It's actually true.
Yeah.
One thing about the show, for people that haven't viewed us before, is it's not an infomercial. There's no pushing anyone towards any companies. There's no websites for you to go to, no phone numbers at the bottom of the screen. We're trying to come across as true advocates for hair loss sufferers. And yet we're opinionated. We can't just be wusses about this. There's things that make sense, and there's just things that don't. But on the other hand, you know, you're all adults, and this is just pure logical information. And we hope it'll be of value to you, or maybe it's no value to you. It's up to you to decide.
That's right.
Okay, so today's topics continue on with real hair replacement education and guidance. We're going to explain to you how to get great hair systems, because we've been talking about the different choices, and it looks like this is where we're going right now. It seems to be the most viable option.
On the last show, we were differentiating between the cheap hair systems, toupees that are out there, and the value of going the extra mile and going ultra custom.
Yeah, you did say on the last show you get what you pay for.
That's
right.
right.
Not to insinuate that it's way out of the reach of hair loss sufferers. I mean, I think all these other things that are out there, as we were talking about, the snake oils, as we call them, maybe we shouldn't be so bad to that industry, but you know, the topical solutions and surgeries surgical solutions are, you know, they're very costly and out of the grasp of most people, I would think.
You know, one of the things, you know, some of the feedback that we've gotten since the last show is someone said, well, you know, all you do is say negative things about surgery, and all you do is say negative things about the snake oil. And we've talked about that, and we've thought about it, and the reality of it is, you know, for years we've been reading about this stuff. There doesn't seem to be anything positive to say about those things.
Well, actually, au contraire, Michael, I think that, on the other hand, all we've heard about is how that's where people should go, and it's a big mistake.
That's right.
Big mistake. I think someone has to finally speak up.
I think so, too.
You know? Also on the show, we're going to be talking about maintenance plans, the pitfalls, maintenance plans. Not that they're all bad. Some are very good, but we just want you to understand what they are, how they kind of trap people into certain companies' grasps, and you just can't get out. But on the other hand, it is kind of all-encompassing, and for the person that just wants everything included, it's pretty good. We'll get into those. And on future shows, we will be inviting contrary views, you know, and we plan to treat these people with respect unless they really deserve it. You know,
that's true.
Then we'll be a little adversarial, right?
That's true.
Okay. So let's start talking about what we said we're going to talk about today's topics. But on the other hand, we also want you to know that we do welcome your response. You can, in the credits of this show, you'll see where you can contact us, and if you have requests or suggestions, you know, contact us, and the ones that are logical, and, you know, actually we'll try to give you a broad range of what kind of response we've been getting. It's actually been very interesting up to this point.
one of the things that, again, that the people have been saying is, well, what about the other side, the other side? See, everything out there, all the commercials, all the nonsense, that's the other side. And they're well spoken for because there's millions and millions of dollars in the surgical hair and all these different topicals and pharmaceutical medications. As far as I'm concerned, they're having their voice on this show. We're going to tell the other side.
I agree. I don't feel sorry for them at all. No. They're just reaping huge profits. So let's talk about how do you get a great hair system, because this is kind of where the shows have how it's evolved. It's evolved to this point now. A person feels he or she wants to get all of her hair back. She wants to look normal. She wants to be like her peers and friends. How does she actually get a good hair system?
Hair systems, the kind of hair systems that we were talking about, we didn't get a chance to talk about it on the last show, but see these movie studios and things, these amazing hair systems that Sean Connery wears and some of these other people, you see how undetectable they are. You don't know. They get up close with the camera. That's what's available now to anybody, is the same quality of hair system that's available to these people.
Actually, it's true. At one time, we could talk about Max Factor, how all the great hair systems he did on all the movie stars, Bogart, etc., etc.
John Wayne,
yeah. Well, instead of just throwing all those names out there, the fact is this stuff was out there, right?
And nobody knew.
Well, actually, no one knew at the time. It's true. I mean, the non-surgical hair replacement industry really started on the West Coast. It really did, because of the movie industry. That's where the ventilators, the hair system makers, the wig makers kind of came into town, sat, learned their craft, and did perform their art. Now, today, what is available in these ultra-custom locations is technology that is similar to that. In other words, it's the criteria is how do we get this to look like it's growing out of the star's skin or the client's skin now. It is finally getting, it's evolved to where it's street wearable, instead of those systems that were made with what was called Van Horn lace at the time, just very, very expensive, real thin, spidery stuff that just disappeared, not disappeared, disintegrated, Now we have some materials that are stronger, that are good for the street, and they last longer.
That are actually available just to anybody. It's a system that looks that good, that looks like your hair is coming right out of your head. The same things has been made over the years so that any person can walk around and use it for everyday use.
Exactly, but people aren't going to know about that if they just can't get past that stigma, that's projected by the media, I guess.
That's right.
But I think that stigma is becoming something of the past as people are more and more doing their research on the web and talking in different forums all over the web and looking, as people are trying to make intelligent decisions on their investment.
That's absolutely true. I mean, see, if you go to like a web search engine and put in ultra custom hair replacement, for instance, see, then you're going to get brought up on the web, on the web search engine, a whole bunch of choices, and people won't even believe what's there. I mean, for instance, these companies, these well-known companies that you hear about, these chains, like last week you were talking about the throwaway mentality and the cheap systems from the Orient. See, you put an ultra custom hair replacement, you bypass all of that, and then you go to the kind of systems that we're talking about, something that actually solves your hair loss problem.
That's right. Systems that are made with artistry. Again, there's three types of systems out there. You got your ready-mades; they're everywhere. You can go to a wig shop and get a ready-made, and sometimes wigs is a good temporary answer for someone that's going through chemotherapy, that, if they only need it to wear hair for a couple hours a day, a wig will get them through without being too uncomfortable. After a couple hours, you need to take it off. Then, of course, there's custom. So we went from again, go back to ready-mades. Now custom. Custom is where the big chains will actually take a template of the head and make it according to your specifications. They're okay. And then you have ultra custom, which is the highest end of this. It's another category of hair replacement. That's where I think we've decided The industry has evolved to that, and that's where people should start looking for their hair systems.
If they want undetectability, that's exactly right. It's really the only choice.
Yeah, you're not going to get undetectability off the shelf. It just makes sense. So I guess the first thing we could say is at least look into the ultra custom category of companies. So look there. And one thing is
because there are new max factors out there doing it.
Yeah, and the new max factors, if you will, are artists and they're hair system makers. It's weird. The industry took a turn of going throwaway systems, and what that means to the viewing audience is that salons decided that instead, that they can't always get hair system makers to sit in their salons. So figure if you're in Lincoln, Nebraska, or in Farmington, New Mexico, or some small place, it's going to be hard to find someone from the movie industry that's there, right?
That's right.
So what they do, what these factory-reliant companies do, is order from a factory, and since they can get these hair systems so inexpensively from the Orient, they just throw them away whenever it needs anything. If it needs color, if it needs hair loss, if the front wears out, hey, just put on another $50 hairpiece, and that's going to solve the problem. Right.
Well, you've actually been to the Orient. You've actually seen these giant factories, right?
I've been all through the northern provinces of mainland China, and I've been to, Qingdao and all these places, and have seen how they work, how they process hair. They're quite huge operations. I mean,
just like people stacked on people, like any big factory,
stacked,
right?
China amazes me. What a country! It really amazes me when you're from Hong Kong and you're in Kowloon or something, and you just see these bridges and you just feel the energy. Kind of like when we just drive over to Universal City, from the valley or something. You just feel the energy. It's amazing, the mightiness you feel of China, And what they do over there in these factories, Michael, is some of these factories can be 6 independent buildings, high-rises, maybe 7 or 8 stories each, high-rise, and will house 3,000 to 4,000 workers, and they're there except for like a few days a year. I guess they let them out for vacation. Right. They feed them, they house them, and everything. They have their children there. It's amazing what they do. And these factories, the way I see it, they start out by just getting machinery in there. Machines that do plastic, machines that make other machines, and these machinists put everything they need together. It's just amazing. I mean, for a guy like me from Hollywood,
right.
It just amazes me, what goes into such a thing.
It's a powerful argument for ultra custom. I mean, how much do these people there in China, 6,000 to a building, I mean, how much do they really care about how personal and customized a hair system? I mean,
pluses and minuses. Let me tell you, the Chinese worker is a worker, and I don't know they're working for something. They know somehow it's going to come back at them. Maybe it's for the good of society. It's a whole different mentality. They're very detail oriented, no doubt. When you go into these factories, it's not like any place else. It's quiet, and no one even looks up. I mean, they're working. It's a lot different than the American worker, who's going to need so many breaks, and he's got jury duty and whatever comes up.
Smoking breaks,
yeah. You don't see that there at all. You're right. But anyway, the only thing is these factories do one thing. They're in competition with other factories, so they just deal in volume, and there's no artistry, none whatsoever. They can duplicate fairly well, but they don't go any extra steps. Like I could get a canvas, I can get paints, I can paint an oil painting. I'm just no Picasso.
Right.
It's the same thing. They need the artistry. They just duplicate,
Yeah, and it stands to reason that because it's artistry, talent, I mean, all those things fit into a great-looking hair system when these elements come together. That's when it's undetectable, and these big factories just aren't capable of it.
No, so basically, in kind of wrapping this little thing about getting a good hair system, go to the ultra-custom salons, because their stylists should be trained to think like artisans. In other words, what does it take to make the hair look like it's coming out from the scalp? And make sure that if you want a great hair system, if you choose hair systems and you don't go surgery or something like that, is that make sure they either make their own systems and have hair system makers there, or they have people that are able to fine-tune your hair system.
Right there on the premises.
Right on the premises, and make them, better. Just like a haircut evolves, a hair system should evolve and become better and better.
One of the things, too, you want to make sure is educate yourself. Again, we always keep stressing it. It's almost better to try ultra-custom rather than having to buy an ultra-custom system to cover up a botched surgery. I mean, so many people end up getting hair systems to cover up problems from surgical hair replacement.
That's what's sad. It's if they came into the non-surgical part of this as a choice, and they weren't forced to do it because of a bad transplant, then it would just be a better situation. But most people come as cover-up.
Yeah.
Now, one thing you got to be aware of, and I alluded to the fact that we're going to cover this today, and I just want to make sure we get some time to do this. They're both evil and they're in some way all-encompassing and good, and they're called maintenance plans. Again, with this factory-reliant mentality that 99.9% of the salons out there, or companies, or maybe 90%, are they're practicing. With that factory mentality, they've got to where they're it's a throwaway mentality is what it is. I'm sorry. They're factory reliant and they have a throwaway mentality. The littlest thing that goes wrong, you're entitled to another system. So let's say you're able to have 4 systems in a year. You wear one at a time for 3 months. Instead of having 2 that you can actually rotate, one at a time. And you get that, and you wear that for 3 months. Well, what they do is they package it all together for you in what's called a maintenance plan, for viewers that don't understand this. Now, a maintenance plan is usually 2-parted. It has 2 parts. You have the membership fee, which could be thousands of dollars,
right,
depending on the company. It could be $2,000, $3,000. And then for a year, you're at so much a month after you've got your membership. You pay so much a month, depending on the company, to get the other services, which include your attachments, because everyone knows these systems have to be taken off, cleaned, and reattached. Your hair coloring, your hair ads. Well, they're not going to do them, but they factor that in. This is money they wouldn't be making, so they factor it into a maintenance plan. So that's where they're kind of evil. But the worst thing is they've got you locked in. And sometimes they've got you locked in by taking the money out of your account. So unless you just close down all your accounts, you can't stop paying them.
Or you have to pay up front.
And the worst thing is, it really hurts the industry too, because since there's no artistry in this anymore, it's just wham, in and out, another system, and you hope the next one, is going to be better, okay? The worst thing is that at the end of that year, they have to make a decision whether they want to do this again. And usually, they don't, because, well, is this all there is? If this is what I'm going to look like, then maybe I'll just quit. So the industry kind of goes down the tubes. So hair loss sufferers just don't realize that you can wear a hair system. It's just got to be, higher end, and it really is a good choice. Sorry, I rambled on.
And have somebody to be able to take care of it. Take care of your system right there on the premises, like we've talked about, instead of throwing it away.
Yeah, that's, again, the most important part of non-surgical is to have a group of artisans working on you. When something comes from a factory and it's put on your head, and I mean it sounds really terrible, something from a factory is put on your head, the chances of that being ready to wear and answer all your problems, have your hair tendencies that God gave you when you were born, somehow it's all working, what's the chances?
Right.
I mean, you need the right densities, so it needs to be tweaked. You need a highlight so it doesn't look like you've been indoors forever. The hair should be like a half shade lighter, on top where the sun hits.
It's got to have the part that looks natural for you.
Exactly. We call it a natural gravity split, where if the hair separates according to your bone structure and the gravitational force. People ought to be able to look in there and see hair growing out from the skin. That has to be duplicated artistically.
And you know, density, that's where people get nailed. See, that's where artistry comes in. You know, when you see somebody who's 40 years old with the hairline of an 18-year-old or this massive amount of density, see, the factory people, they don't know.
No, that's true. And again, these systems, well, you know, they're throwaway, and I think the main thing is the terror you must feel if you have one that's even fairly good. Okay, the terror is, you know, next month I'm going in and my next one is coming out of a box. They're not going to work on this one. They don't have you know, hair system makers or the ability. What am I going to look like? So I think that terror just must be horrible. And you know, to viewers that haven't gone through this, and you know, but might. You know, that's something to consider. And
then when your maintenance thing ends, they know it's so much easier for you to just pay for more again, because you need hair right away, especially if your hair system's falling apart and ready to be thrown away. It makes people want to just sign on the line that's dotted again and get sucked in.
Well, the worst thing for me as a person out there, you know, looking for cars or whatever, is I just don't like the whole sales thing. You know, and I know this, you know, in these large chains especially, you're going to be sold every, you know, it's like, oh gee, these systems didn't work. Well, maybe, you know, you don't know about this new model, and we can get you on a program. It's, you know, it never ends.
And then they have this like pseudo-scientific name for the system.
Well, we won't mention any of those names, but yes, you know, it's like they make it sound so scientific when really, what is it? It's a hairpiece.
It's a hairpiece.
You know, to me, I think the most honest ad out there could be, yes, this is a hairpiece, but look at the darn thing.
That's right.
You know.
That's right.
See, what the whole thing is with a hair system, just because I've got many years in this business, is that whoever's designing whatever they design for you, even if it's transplants or whatever, you just don't want the eyes to go up. And there's certain things that make the eyes go up. Number one is too much density, as you said. But too much density makes it look dark. See, light has to come in, bounce off a person's scalp, hit those other hairs, reflect off other hairs, and then it looks real. If things look good up there, there's no reason for the eyes to go up and wander. You know, like, God, you look good. What's going on up there?
Right.
No, it's like, God, you look good, but are you working out? But right. You look elsewhere. If that looks good, it's eliminated.
That's right.
But you know, just like when two dogs meet, you know, the tails are up, then one goes down, you know, we all know when something looks good or not.
That's right.
Let's go back to this mantra. You know, this is an important part of every one of our shows here. And
it's really true, especially because it is an emotional thing, like we talked about. You know, you got to be persistent. You got to persevere. It is a debilitating problem, having hair loss, and
that's
you
right.
got to
So
be
the
tough.
first part of the mantra is triple think before opting for any surgical solution, right?
That's right.
And don't be a sniveler. And what do you think about snake oils?
I think that you should approach them with extreme skepticism.
Good words there, Michael. Non-surgical hair replacement systems won't hurt you at all. That's what we're talking about right now. You know, they just won't hurt you. It's a logical choice. And no matter what,
it can be fixed.
And the opinions of your friends truly don't count. I mean, don't listen to them. Do what's good for you.
Well, that's right, because in the end, it's got to be for yourself anyway.
And if you have a lover?
You won't lose your lover if you don't look goofy.
Okay, and like you already said, jumping ahead, whatever you choose to do it for yourself, you know. So, one thing, again, you got two dogs, you know, back to this dog thing.
Back to the dog thing.
It relates, I swear to God. You know, it's like you can sense when the dogs know which one's stronger, right? And then the tail goes down and one's submissive. We know when someone's in a bad mood.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't say bad mood on their forehead. You sense whether this person's open, you can approach them, they're approachable, or they're standoff, or they just don't want to talk, you know. So with a hair system, people that aren't even in hair, you know, they can look up and they go, you know, that Michael's a nice guy, but there's just something goofy about him. What is it?
That's
You know,
right.
Too thick, too dark, or whatever. Anything that makes the eyes go up, and they go up if it's
You know,
not
when you have a
right.
good-looking hair system too, like a lot of people say, you know, that all of a sudden you get known as the guy who's like wearing the system. But when you have a good-looking hair system, you forget and people forget, and then they just accept it.
Well, again, if you look normal and you don't draw attention to yourself, that's exactly what's going to happen. Maybe if you had a real close friend, because that is a concern. What happens if a person's in your state, then, you know, goes in on their lunch hour and gets all their hair back? I mean, that's quite a thing.
It's a shocking thing, but over time, and not even that much time, if it looks real and if it looks good, people do forget. And if it looks really good, sometimes people think you lost weight or something else.
Well, one thing I'd like to tell our audience about is that our next show, we're going to be reviewing a lot of our viewer responses. I think that's going to be fun. We'll try to get the good and the bad in there, and good broad. You know, it's not like we're setting the world on fire with the show so far, but we are getting stuff. And also, Michael is going to be showing all of us how he solved his hair loss situation. So we might see something very interesting next time.
I think for sure that people will think it interesting. I'm looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it too. So that will be very cool. Again, Michael, I think when just as a little bit of a kind of a wrap-up thing here is people have to go to the highest category of hair replacement. If you're going to wear a hair system, at least, you know, wear the best or don't wear anything.
That's
so
right.
Search for the best, whatever you do.
Ultra custom.
Exactly. And these maintenance plans, you know, you're just going to run into them. So this is why we're talking about them here. Just be prepared. Realize that they're negotiable. When you're talking to someone on a maintenance plan, if they're throwing this at you, just say, look, don't take it out of my bank account. That's one suggestion I have. And, you know, look, I'll make the payments. You know, and if you really have an issue with a company and they're not doing things, maybe you can actually stop the payments.
That's right. So it's good to remember too, like going back to Max Factor, Bogart, John Wayne, those guys did not go to discount chains to get their hair looking that great and undetectable.
I wonder if there were any around then. I don't think so, because that's all it is now. It's all discount chains.
And some artists out there that you can find.
Yeah, you have to search. We had a great experience. We allude to it, you know, of our experience in Nashville and meeting people in the industry and seeing, you know, really getting more into how the industry really operates and seeing how it's controlled. Very, very interesting. I hope that we can talk about that on our next show.
We will, because there seems to be a push towards ultra custom.
Fantastic. And Michael,
Richard,
always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
We're going to keep on doing this and doing this.
Yep. And we'll see you next week.
Very good. It seems